Turkey in the brine, piggy in the hole. Got a lot of cooking on this barbecue show. Wood's been chopped and the drinks are cold. Gonna get starting on the smoking coals. Hello YouTube, Robert here. Getting ready to do some ribs, smoke some ribs up. I thought I was going to do a brisket, but I ran out of time to get a brisket. Ribs are a whole lot easier to find, a little bit easier to cook. I'm going to be using the 2-2-1 method, and I'll describe that as we go along. First of all, we got to fix up our ribs. As you can see, we got this rack of ribs, and you know, it's not too much fat on there, but that's going to give the flavoring. When that smoke gets to it, it's going to absorb all that smoke flavor, and that's going to make it real good. Problem is, on the inside here, you might notice a little bit of it right there. You need to get that off. I don't know what you call that, a membrane or a skin or what, but it's on the inside of the cavity, the chest cavity. That's got to come off, because when you smoke that, that's going to prevent that. If you happen to have it sitting down, that's going to prevent you from getting all that smoke flavor into the meat. And also, this just is not good, in my opinion. It's a lot better if you take it off. They'll be a lot more tender. Okay, I got this membrane off. I saved you the trouble of watching me do all that, but I think we got it down to where it's bare meat right here, and so that'll absorb our dry rubs a lot better, and also the smoke flavor will go into it better. And so now we're going to sprinkle our seasoning on here, and you can use any kind of dry rub that you like. Some people make their own. I haven't gotten that sophisticated yet. And don't worry about putting too much on it, because you can't put too much. Okay, I'm going to let that set a little bit, soak in, and then I'm going to actually turn it over and do the other side as well. I'll get right back to you. So part of smoking is making sure you're thinking ahead, preparing ahead. One of the things that I like to do is to think about cleaning up. So you want to make sure that your items are not going to be that hard to clean up. So I line them with foil. Here's my moisture pan, and I've lined it with foil. The other thing I noticed, I'm going to show this to you. I've got a 30-inch smoker, Masterbuilt smoker, and it comes with these racks. But I'm looking at it on these ribs here. So here's my rack, and here's my ribs. If you notice, there's a little bit of hangoverage right there. So rather than putting it in at an angle, which as you can tell I could easily do, I think I'm going to cut these half in two so that I can smoke those one part on the back and one part on the front. And that way you get more even coverage. Sometimes the edges won't get as much smoke that way. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, I've got my smoker smoking and heating up, waiting for the ribs to set. I've got this temperature set to 225, and got my time set to 5 hours. Well, actually I set it to 6 hours. It's been heating up for a little while. Looks like my temperature is at 250, and that's probably higher because of the wood is smoking. As you can tell, I got some good smoke going in right there. I'm actually using these hickory wood chips in there, Hickory is a great wood for smoking any kind of barbecue, really, but particularly pork, in my opinion. I love it with hickory. So anyway, we're going to get our ribs on here very shortly. I'm going to let this thing do what it's going to do for a little while longer, and then we'll put the ribs on. Okay, I got my ribs all spiced up. As you can tell, they've really soaked in really good. I like the way they look. And so I'm going to go ahead and transfer them over to my grate here. And I'm going to let them set there until my smoker is where I want it temperature-wise. And let them actually come to room temperature. Probably not take about another 10 minutes or so. But yeah, wanted at room temperature so that the meat can go ahead and start absorbing those spices. Okay, got the ribs on, got it cooking, filled it up with more wood chips to make sure that we're at a good temperature. Of course, when I open the door, you might see right here when it changes, my temperature dropped a little bit. Anyway, temperature dropped a little bit, so that's going to have to come back up to temperature. We're going to let it cook for 2 hours. I told you earlier that we were doing the 2-2-1. We're going to let it cook for 2 hours in the smoker, and then once our 2 hours is up, we're going to come out and do the next step, which I will show you here shortly. As I mentioned, we want to make sure we keep the ribs in there for 2 hours. So you want to set a timer, and I use my Google Home for that. Okay, Google, set a timer for 2 hours.
Okay, 2 hours, and here we go.
Excellent. So when the timer goes off, we'll go out there and we'll check on our ribs. Well, guess what I forgot to put in? That's right, the moisture basin. Definitely need to get that in there so that the ribs don't dry out. The heat will dry it out, but this kind of helps keep them steamed. So I'm going to run out there and put that in there real quick. Okay, got it in there. Lost some temperature. Temperature went back down to about, well, if it'll flip, there you go, about 200 degrees. So that's not too bad. Now, what can you put in your moisture basin? Some people put water. I like to have a little more flavor. Apple juice. Some people, I've been told, use beer. Some people will use all kinds of fruit juices like orange juice. I prefer apple juice if I'm going to use one of the two. But yeah, so that's what I've got in there. Anything with a fruit in it is usually pretty good, but you definitely need that moisture basin in there, otherwise your ribs are going to be tough. Okay, Google, how much time is left on the timer?
54 minutes and 40 seconds remaining.
Excellent. So we got less than an hour. We need to go out and put some more wood in the smoker. I like to do that every hour. Fortunately, with this Masterbuilt smoker, I don't have to open the door to do that. All I have to do is to pull this little tray out. And fill it up with wood. That's about all you need right there. So as we can tell, we still got some smoke coming out here. And our temperature, 236. I like to keep it around 235. It's about 35 degrees out here right now, outside temperature. So my temperatures are fluctuating a little more than they normally would if it was a warm day. But anyway, we got another hour to go. Okay, while we're waiting for the timer to go off, we're going to prepare for our next step in our 221 process. This requires making our mop. A mop is basically what you put over the ribs when they come out after our time has run, the first 2 hours has run. What I'd like to do is to use some already manufactured stuff and just kind of blend things together. I've got this Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. I got the hickory and brown sugar. I got a little bit of Worcestershire sauce and a little bit of Frank's Red Hot. And mix all that up together. And actually, you want it thin. So what I use to cut it is apple juice. So you want it so where it'll just kind of run off like that. You don't want it thick. That's not the purpose. What we're going to do is we're going to take the ribs off and we're going to put them in aluminum foil. And then we're going to actually put this mop over top of the meat and really coat it well with the mop, and then seal up real tight in the aluminum foil, those ribs, and then put them back in the smoker for another 2 hours. That mop that's in there is actually going to start steaming, and it's going to steam those ribs, and that's what's really going to break that meat down, those tendons down, so that they're really soft. Okay, Google, how much time do we have left on the timer?
26 minutes and 33 seconds to go.
Okay, so in about 26 minutes, we'll be taking them off and wrapping them up. There's one of the ribs. I think you can see that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our mop and we're really going to coat it down. I really like the red color from my rub on there. That's awesome. Looks really good. I'm really good bridging this mop. Like I said, moisture is supposed to steam up in here, so it's also almost scary. Next, I'm going to put the ribs back in once I've been cutting foil. I'm going to do the same thing with this piece. This is a piece I'm going to put on this one. Nice and tight. We're going to continue to cook this for another 2 hours. Of course, I'm going to go inside and set my Google timer. And once that's done, we'll come back out and do the next step. Okay, we have our ribs out of the smoker. Oh boy, they look good. So what we're wanting to do now, we take them out of our foil. And now we're going to put our sauce on there. And now we're going to put them back in the smoker. Okay, the ribs are done. I've taken them off the smoker. They look beautiful. Let me show them to you here. They look really, really good. I can't wait to dig into them here. Oh my goodness. They literally are coming apart in my hand. Look at that. The bones just fall out. I don't even need to cut it. That's good. Y'all gonna have to excuse me. I got some eating to do. All right, guys, here it is. Falling off the bone. I'm telling you. Delicious. Just the flavor of the smoke, the seasonings that I have on it is very delicious. I'm hoping I'm gonna have enough left for my family when they get home. It might be hard to do. All right, guys. Just wanted to follow up on a couple things. First of all, I made a mistake. I was cooking those at 225, not 235. That's my preferred temperature for cooking pork. And also, the temperature fluctuations that I was getting, I was able to resolve them by opening the vent on top of the smoker. I had forgotten left it closed, and so when I put in wood, the wood would ignite and actually heat up the smoker without the element coming on. So the smoker was actually getting hotter from the wood burning and not the element actually being on. So once I opened up the vent to vent out some of the smoke and some of the heat, I was able to get my temperature back where I need to be, and it regulated it fine using the element as opposed to the wood burning up. But the ribs were delicious, and I would highly recommend you try these. If you don't have a smoker, you need to get one. You need to go ahead and get one. You can get them as little as $100. You can get them as much as a couple thousand, depending on what kind you get. But my little Masterbuilt, it works great, and I would highly recommend it to anyone. And you know, even if you're new starting out and you don't know if you're going to like it or not, $100 is a minimal investment for something that you probably end up loving. I know I do. Anyway, see you guys next time. Parents coming over and my brothers too. Gonna sample all this barbecue. Lot of tongue slapping going on. It's time for me to eat and end this
his song.